Masterminds, calculated precision, and sky-high stakes are all essentials needed to execute the perfect heist. So, you'll see all of those in full force today. History is filled with them, and in this video, we'll dive into events that stunned the world with their boldness and flawless execution. From invaluable stolen art to top security museums to staggering robberies, they embody the thrill and peril of criminal brilliance. These are the 15 most remarkable heists of all time. Number 15. The Banko Central Heist. Back in August of 2005, in what felt like a straight-up Hollywood plot, a brave crew of thieves in Fortaleza, northeastern Brazil, pulled off a heist that stunned people with its intricate planning. They rented a house near the Banko Central branch, posed as a landscaping company, and spent 3 months digging a tunnel approximately 262 feet long and 13 feet underground. They reinforced it with wooden beams and installed electric lighting. The tunnel led directly beneath the bank's vault, bypassing security systems entirely. On a weekend when the bank was closed, they broke through the 3.6-foot-thick steel-reinforced concrete floor and stole 156 million reais, worth roughly $70 million at the time, all in 50 real notes that were about to be taken out of circulation. The entire operation went undetected until Monday morning when employees returned. Investigators found that the gang had gone as far as advertising their fake landscaping services to avoid raising suspicion. Only a portion of the money was ever recovered. Number 14. The Antwerp Diamond Heist. In February of 2003, in the Belgian city of Antwerp, often called the world's diamond capital, a team of Italian thieves escaped with over $100 million in diamonds, gems, and jewelry. It was the biggest diamond theft in history. Leonardo Notarbartolo, the alleged ringleader, posed as an Italian diamond broker and rented office space in the Antwerp World Diamond Center. This gave him access to the building and allowed him to observe and learn its security measures over the span of 4 years. The vault was 2 floors underground and protected by 10 layers of security, infrared sensors, Doppler radar, magnetic fields, and a lock with 100 million combinations. Eventually, he gathered enough intel to pull it off. The heist took place on the weekend of February 15th and 16th, 2003. They bypassed every security feature, installed a hidden camera to record the vault's code, disabled infrared sensors, and even duplicated a supposedly uncopyable key. They opened 123 boxes, and unfortunately, most of the loot was never found. Number 13. The Great Train Robbery. This is one of the most iconic heists in British history. In the early hours of August 8, 1963, a gang of 15 robbers hijacked the Glasgow to London Royal Mail train and stole £2.6 million, which would be roughly over £50 million in today's money. To pull it off, the gang tampered with the signal system, switching a green light to red using a 6-volt battery and forcing the train to stop. When the driver got out to check, they knocked him unconscious. But they had an issue, and that issue was that their substitute driver didn't know how to operate that particular train model. So, they had to revive the original driver and force him to move the train to the waiting trucks. They removed 120 mailbags holding 2.5 tons of cash using a human chain. At Leatherslade Farm, they split the money and tried to lay low. But a local grew suspicious and called the police. Fingerprints left behind led to arrests. Ronnie Biggs famously escaped and became legendary. Number 12. The 1979 Mitsubishi Bank Heist. Sometimes a heist can feel like a movie. Other times, it's a nightmare. In 1979, Akira Nishikawa walked into a Mitsubishi Bank branch in Osaka armed with a shotgun, kicking off a 42-hour hostage crisis that ended in bloodshed. He shot and killed 2 bank employees and 2 responding officers, then held 40 people captive inside. Over nearly 2 days, Nishikawa subjected the hostages to psychological torment and physical abuse, creating an atmosphere of chaos and dread. Negotiators worked tirelessly while tactical units planned a response. Eventually, law enforcement launched an assault. During the final operation, Nishikawa was shot and killed. Unlike the clean, calculated heists pulled off with stealth and precision, this was raw and desperate. The brutality and prolonged tension gripped Japan and sparked widespread discussion on police preparedness and hostage protocols. It remains one of the darkest and most violent heist attempts in the country's history. More tragedy than crime, more horror than strategy. Number 11. The Dunbar Armored Heist. This heist was orchestrated by Alan Pace III, who was a former regional safety inspector for Dunbar, the very company he planned to rob. He wasn't just a bitter ex-employee, he was methodical. Fired the day before the heist for tampering with vehicles, he'd already spent months studying the layout of Dunbar's Los Angeles Armored Depot, photographing details, and noting camera positions. He enlisted 5 childhood friends and equipped them with ski masks, pistols, shotguns, and radio headsets. On the night of the heist, they first attended a party to establish alibis, then slipped away to commit the robbery. They entered using keys, dodged cameras, and caught guards during break time. The crew tied them up and headed straight for the vault. Pace knew Friday nights meant open access for large cash transfers. In just 1 hour, they packed $18.9 million into a U-Haul, grabbed surveillance tapes, and vanished. A stray piece of plastic from a taillight started the unraveling. 2 years later, it all collapsed. Number 10. The Hatton Garden Heist. Back in April of 2015, an underground safe deposit facility in London's Hatton Garden was hit. Thieves made off with around £14 million worth of valuables using a rather unorthodox entry method. Hatton Garden lies in London's Diamond District and is packed with safes, vaults, and hidden treasures. Over Easter weekend, a group of experienced and, in some cases, elderly criminals pulled off the burglary. Disguised as workmen, they descended the lift shaft of the building. With the site empty for the holiday, they used an industrial-grade diamond-tipped drill to bore through a 50-centimeter-thick concrete wall. The hole was just big enough for them to squeeze through. Once inside, they spent 2 nights rifling through 73 safety deposit boxes, stealing an estimated £14 million in cash, gold, and gems. The police were alerted by an alarm, but didn't respond. CCTV later showed the gang entering and leaving. The robbers, some in their 70s, were caught, except for one mysterious suspect, known only as Basil. Number 9. The British Bank of the Middle East Heist. You'd think a civil war wouldn't be the ideal time to plan a heist, but apparently, that's the perfect cover. On January 20th, 1976, a heavily armed group entered the cathedral on Wadi Abu Jamil Street in central Beirut. Using explosives, they blasted through a shared wall into the British Bank of the Middle East. Once inside, the real challenge began, getting into the vaults. They spent days drilling through, eventually breaking in and seizing valuables estimated at $50 million. No one was ever caught. None of the goods ever recovered. To this day, it's not even clear who was behind it. Theories range from political factions to militant groups to high-level criminal syndicates. But hard evidence? Practically non-existent. The chaos of the Lebanese Civil War gave them the perfect opportunity. The mystery surrounding this robbery remains unsolved. Number 8. The Stockholm Cash Depot Heist. At 5:15 a.m., a stolen helicopter landed on the rooftop of the G4S Cash Depot in Stockholm. A group of masked men armed with explosives and sledgehammers smashed through the reinforced glass skylight and descended into the building using ladders. They then deployed small explosives to blow open the interior doors, while staff members locked themselves inside safe rooms. The gang filled bags with cash and loaded them into the helicopter, escaping within 20 minutes. They'd also placed a decoy bomb at the police helicopter base to delay any aerial response and scattered caltrops, spiked deterrents, on roads surrounding the area to block pursuit vehicles. The plan was airtight. It took coordination with international forces, including Serbian intelligence, to make the arrests. Yet even after several suspects were captured and charged, the stolen cash was never located. It's a rare example of a perfectly executed airborne robbery. Number 7. The Nightsbridge Security Deposit Heist. In 1987, London's upscale Knightsbridge district became the stage for a heist that saw thieves escape with roughly £60 million. Valerio had fled Italy, already wanted for 50 armed robberies. But he wasn't ready to retire. The operation relied on an inside man, Parvez Latif, managing director of the Knightsbridge Safe Deposit Center. Drowning in debt and addicted to cocaine, he was an easy target. On July 12th, the robbers entered the center under the guise of renting a safety deposit box. Once inside the vault, they pulled guns, overpowered staff, and posted a sign reading, "Temporarily closed." More gang members arrived, broke into numerous deposit boxes, and hauled out valuables worth tens of millions. It wasn't until the next shift change that anyone noticed the breach. A bloody fingerprint tied Vicky to the crime, and coordinated raids led to several arrests. Vicky escaped to Latin America but returned to retrieve his Ferrari, and that's when he was captured. Number 6. The Brinks Mat Heist Way. Back in November 1983, 6 robbers infiltrated the Brinks Mat warehouse at the Heathrow International Trading Estate and made off with £26 million in gold, diamonds, and banknotes. The gang entered the building with help from a security guard and an internal accomplice. Once inside, they doused employees with petrol and threatened them with a lit match to force them to reveal the vault combination. The crew had expected cash, not the massive gold haul they actually found. It felt like a jackpot. But smelting down and laundering so much gold turned out to be a logistical nightmare. Bullion had to be melted, reshaped, and sold discreetly. In fact, so much of it entered circulation that people in the UK buying jewelry after 1983 may unknowingly own pieces made from the stolen gold. The heist wasn't just lucrative. It left a permanent mark on the nation's gold market and spawned years of investigations, violence, and disappearances linked to its aftermath. Number 5. The Lufanza Heist. Now we've got a heist from 1978, before surveillance cameras and tracking tech started ruining everything for criminals. This one unfolded at JFK Airport in New York, inside the Lufthansa cargo building. The thieves had inside knowledge about large sums of untraceable U.S. currency flown in from West Germany for American banks. They ended up seizing $5.875 million in cash and jewelry, which translates to around $28.32 million today. Though the robbery succeeded, paranoia quickly took hold. Fearing betrayal, the crew turned on each other. Tommy, Two Guns, Desimone, and Angelo Seppi even executed an accomplice during dinner to silence him. Apparently murder's a crime too. But hey, who's keeping score? The Lufanza heist has since become infamous, immortalized in books and film, especially Martin Scorsese's Goodfellas, 1990. Its sheer audacity and bloody aftermath cemented it in criminal history, even though most of the cash was never seen again. It was reckless, calculated, and utterly unforgettable. Number 4. The Millennium Dome Diamond Heist. The Millennium Dome in London hosted a special exhibition marking the turn of the century. Among the displays was the De Beers diamond collection, including the flawless 203.04-carat Millennium Star, valued at a staggering £200 million, along with rare blue diamonds. Naturally, it caught the eye of a criminal group. Their plan? Smash through the dome's fence using a modified JCB earth mover, storm the vault, grab the gems, and flee down the Thames in a speedboat. They scoped the venue for months, carefully planning around tidal schedules. But the Metropolitan Police Flying Squad was already watching. Their suspicions had been confirmed, linking the group to earlier attempted thefts. This led to Operation Magician, one of the most extensive covert missions at the time, complete with hidden cameras and replica gems. On November 7th, when the gang burst through the fence, they were swarmed by over 200 officers hiding inside. It was over in minutes. The diamonds never left the dome. Number 3. The Baghdad Central Bank Heist. This heist doesn't follow the usual playbook. It was bold, bizarre, and backed by political power. In the early morning of March 18, 2003, just before the U.S. invasion of Iraq, 3 trucks arrived at the Central Bank of Iraq. Qusay Hussein, son of Saddam Hussein, presented a handwritten note from his father authorizing the withdrawal of $920 million in U.S. currency, along with an additional $90 million in foreign bills. Over 5 hours, bank staff loaded the entire amount into waiting trucks under Qusay's watch. It became the largest bank robbery in recorded history. When American troops later entered Baghdad, they discovered $650 million hidden in one of Saddam's palace walls. The rest of the money was never recovered. Who helped, where it went, or whether it still exists, no one knows. But this $1 billion heist is on just another level. Number 2. The Berlin Gold Coin Heist. On March 27, 2017, Berlin's Bode Museum became the scene of one of the most unusual robberies ever recorded. The theft of the Big Maple Leaf, a 220-pound solid gold coin valued at $4,005,000. Thieves accessed the museum through a third-floor window by placing a ladder against the elevated railway tracks next to the building. They shattered the bulletproof display case and removed the coin, transporting it across the railway bridge using a wheelbarrow. From there, they fled through a nearby park. By July, special police units had tracked suspects using DNA evidence found at the scene. Several individuals were arrested and eventually convicted, but the coin was never found. Authorities believe it was melted down and sold in smaller parts, making it virtually impossible to trace. Despite the arrests, the loss of the Big Maple Leaf remains a haunting example of how quickly something massive can vanish, especially when its value lies in its weight, not its image. All right, guys. Now, let's end this with something greater. Number 1. The Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum Heist. Back in 1990, 2 men dressed as police officers entered the Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum in Boston and made off with 13 artworks valued at $500 million. To this day, the case remains unresolved, and no arrests have ever been made. There's still an active $10 million reward for any credible tip that leads to the recovery of the stolen pieces. Among the pilfered artworks were pieces by Vermeer, Rembrandt, Degas, and Manet. Although an ongoing FBI investigation continues, very little is concretely known about what truly happened. There's almost no physical evidence, but information gathered through interrogations has led authorities to concentrate primarily on the Boston Mafia as potential culprits. So, what do you think about it? Let us know in the comments below. We really hope you've enjoyed this video. If you did, please like, share, and subscribe. Thanks for joining us on this journey, and we'll see you soon in the next one.